Welcome to the Breakdown with INFB. I'm your host, Heidi Gant. Have you ever dealt with an issue in everyday life that you wish were handled better at the government level or maybe worked more efficiently? We all do, right? Well, Delaware County Farm Bureau had one of those issues that they were able to turn into legislation that ultimately turned into House Enrolled Act 1012, which was passed by both houses of the 2025 Indiana General Assembly and signed by the governor. The bill, which requires law enforcement agencies to inform property owners of damage to property in the event of a motor vehicle accident, was a result of Delaware County's policy development process. So today we're talking with Katie Nixon, Delaware County Farm Bureau board member, about how grassroots of Farm Bureau came through to get state legislation passed. So welcome, Katie.
Hi, happy to be here.
Okay, Katie, let's just start out with talking about your farm operation. Where do you farm? What do you farm?
Yeah, so as you stated, I'm on the Delaware County Farm Bureau Board. So I'm at Delaware County in Yorktown. I farm here with my dad. I joined the Farm Bureau Board, I think, in 2021. So that's been a couple years now. Definitely, they kind of tossed me in right away to like get involved and always going to the state house and things like that. So I've definitely enjoyed like doing it and yeah.
And what do you grow? What do you raise?
Oh, so I'm sorry. Yeah, I farm with my dad. Corn and soybeans. Yeah, just pretty standard corn and soybean operation here in around Muncie.
All right, awesome. So your participation in Farm Bureau, you said you joined in 2021. You were asked to join, it sounds like. So voluntold, as a lot of us are. So I know I've seen you at the State House a lot during legislative session with your county. So have you always been interested in policy, or was that something that people kind of told you needed to go, or were you just interested in stuff like that?
To be honest, before I joined the board, I didn't ever really think about policy or government, you know, processes. But once I got involved and kind of learned like, what our organization actually was doing, and then when you get to go and actually talk to the legislators, that's when I was like, oh, this is really cool and interesting, and um, just to get more of an insight on how the process works. Um, I just thought that was really cool. So once I joined, I definitely wanted to like stay involved in doing stuff like that.
Yeah, very cool. So this past legislative session, as we mentioned, you came to the State House to talk to your legislators, but also specifically to testify on behalf of one particular piece of legislation. Let's talk about House Bill 1012 and how that came to be. Let's start with talking about your policy development process in Delaware County. How did this issue come about? Did someone just bring it to your board meeting one day and start talking about it, and you guys just kind of spitballed as to what to do about it?
Yeah, definitely. Actual board members have had this issue happen to them. So they brought it up just in a normal board meeting. It's a issue they're having as farmers, wrecks happen in their field or through their fences and their animals get out. So it was actually, I think, what helped us do this so efficiently or do it well is the people on the actual board were having the problem, right? So then if it's affecting you personally, you're going to be more motivated to get it done. So it came up at a couple board meetings and then, through that, it goes to the policy development committee and then we have a policy development dinner and just kept being, brought up and then worked on and eventually, given to somebody higher up to make a, law about it. So
So, do you know kind of how that happened? Did you all reach out to Representative Prescott to start
I
working?
guess I assume it was Drew that reached out, but I know that
Our
a lot
regional
of people,
manager, Drew.
yeah, Drew Cleveland. But I do know, I mean, we have a good working relationship with Prescott and the other representatives in our area. We talk to them every time we're down there. So I think having that relationship on a personal level, when like, we know their names, we're familiar faces to them when we're down here, I think builds that relationship where when we do have this idea that, to me, and I think the rest of our board just was common sense, like, well, yeah, why wouldn't, a law enforcement officer let us know that there's a car wrecked in our cornfield, that we can't see. So I think because it was such a, safety issue and just something that we're all like, well, yeah, why isn't this already a thing? It made it easy to get the ball rolling.
Well, and from what I remember during legislative session, I think that was the thought from some of the legislators that you were testifying to was like, oh, wow, this isn't already a thing. So that I think there's so many little things like that that are issues that maybe people just assume something is going to be done about it, but they don't know it's an issue until you all bring it to them because they're not living and breathing it every day. So that's an important point I think that you mentioned too is having representatives that feel familiar to you and feel comfortable talking about ag related issues. Not not everybody has that in the state. Luckily, we do
Right.
have a very ag friendly legislation, but
Mhm.
I feel like there are representatives and senators who just get it a little bit.
Mhm.
So I think you
Right.
guys are blessed in that way in your area. But I think that's something to say to other people in other parts of Indiana is if you don't have someone like that, you need to seek them out. You need to ask
Mhm.
people to run who are ag friendly,
Right.
who understand your issues. Otherwise, you're going to have to explain, which is fine. I think that that's what we do. That's the whole point of you all going to the state house, right? Is
Right.
talk about some of those issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis so that they understand when it
Right.
comes up to a vote of, something
Mhm.
that impacts you. Um,
Right.
so
Because a
how,
lot of people, even I think, just from people like representative I talked to down there, like, yeah, ours are very ag friendly. Some of them were even raised like in rural areas, like on farms, but a lot of them weren't. So to make it a more like personable story, to those people, I think helps a lot as well.
yeah, for sure. So when you come to the state house, can you tell people, because there are a lot of members who don't go or haven't gone. Can you talk about
Mhm.
what that experience is like?
I mean, I think it's a great experience. I of course when I was first going, I didn't know what to expect, so I wasn't as like talkative or like outgoing, but we Drew Cleveland takes us down, our other representatives or not our other board members, whoever volunteers to go. And since they already knew them, it was, I mean, of course, you're kind of like awkward and nervous, like talking to them, but like they already have a good relationship. So then it's easier to bring in a new person like me or another new board member that, maybe hasn't gone before, but like there's no reason to really like be nervous about it because, there's always people there kind of like, doing introductions and they know what to talk about. And really what you're talking about when you go is just your experiences. So um, that in and of itself isn't, scary necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think it's intimidating to feel like
Yeah.
you come to the state house and you're supposed to know all this stuff. No, you're not. You're not the legislator. You don't have to understand every little law that we have. I think you got right to the point. They just need to understand what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They need to understand what farmers what's impacting you so that they
Mhm.
understand how to vote. So I think that's
Right.
a great way to put it. So in kind of continuing talking about this legislation that you all got passed, can you explain a little bit more about what the bill actually does? So we've heard about what the issue is. So now what does the bill do?
So I'm under the understanding the law enforcement officer, if there's an accident or crash at a scene, car or incident or whatever, the landowner where that incident happened needs to be notified whether there's debris left in their field or like a couple examples we used when we went to testify was a car accident happened. The car ran through a fence that had cattle in it. It was dark. The police officer didn't know there was cattle in there, right? So they ended up getting out. Nobody's notified, and then you get a call from the police, the next day, oh, all your cattle are out, well, how would you even know that?
Yeah.
It's in the middle of the night, and thankfully, normally farmers is, oh, well, Jim down the street knows who lives here and knows these cat, but like you can't rely on that every time. So, yeah, just notifying, landowners when this stuff does happen because it can affect the safety of us. It can affect the safety of the other, like, pedestrians or whoever. So, yeah, I just think that like we've said before, it's just kind of common sense and,
Yeah.
you know,
That's awesome. So INFB's mission is to protect and enhance the future of agriculture in our community. So I think this is a great way to talk about that as the policy development process. So what would you tell other farm bureaus or other farmers about this experience that you had in getting legislation passed, like using this policy development process to your advantage? Think things can actually get passed. If we can do it, you can do it. Is that kind of what your message would be about this process and how that happened?
Yeah, I think that when you can actually see something change or see that you did something, it's obviously going to encourage you to do it more, right? So like before this, I mean, yeah, I had gone down and talked about different bills and stuff, but like not that I didn't think it was helping, but it's like now that you've actually seen it happen and get past, it just will encourage you to do it more. Um, so yeah, I think just staying involved and don't get discouraged if you have to go down and talk about the same thing 3 or 4 times and you don't see anything happen. Because it can feel that way sometimes. But when something like this does, it just like, yeah, like I said, just encourages you to keep trying and, get other stuff passed or write other, policies. So,
Yeah, that's great advice. So, speaking of, do you have any other issues that you all are talking about that you hope to see addressed in future legislation?
um, I think the taxes is the big one, property taxes and things. That's always a really hot topic at our monthly meeting. We actually have a meeting tonight. We haven't had one. And we take May off for planting, so we haven't had a meeting in a while, but that's always comes up. And I know that we're working with our district president and stuff just to kind of get some stuff, like you're saying, like, grassroots. What are our ideas to be a little bit more proactive versus being retroactive in the sense that, oh, well, we're go down and talk about this tax bill and, we really, really want this, but it's just a band-aid. So we weren't trying to come up with something that hopefully is a more permanent solution and will help farmers and, rural communities and things like that. So
Well, that's great. Katie, this is awesome. Thank you so much for doing what you do, being the actual grassroots that we talk about all the time at the state level. We appreciate you. And hopefully, other farmers in other areas of the state will take your advice and do what you've done and get something
yeah,
else that could help everyone. So, thank you so much for taking your time today and hope to see you at the State House soon.
great. Thank you so much.
Thanks. If you enjoyed our conversation today, make sure to subscribe to The Breakdown with INFB and even rate and review us to let us know how we're doing. For more information, visit www.infb.org/podcast.